Hi.
All righty. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm going to get ready and I'm going to call this meeting to order, the Board of Trustees meeting, June 16, 2025, 4:32, Public School Retirement System of the City of St. Louis. And we'll ask for roll call.
Candace Carter Oliver,
Present.
Louis Cross,
Present.
Emily Hubbard,
Present.
Shanice Johnson,
Present.
Kimberly Johnson Miller, Yvette Levy,
Here.
Jennifer Orr, Bobby Richardson, Albert Sanders,
Present.
Doris Walker.
Here.
All right, so we
Okay.
have 7. We do have a quorum.
And welcome, everyone. We're going to go on and start with the approval of the minutes of the last meeting, which is tab 1, Board of Trustees regular meeting, April the 21st, 2025. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, been properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, and that passes. Okay, so we're gonna, the reading of communications to the Board of Trustees. Are there any, sir?
I don't have anything.
Okay, presentations by interested parties. Do we have any presentations?
I don't have anything.
Oh, I tell you, I could tell you something about those days. Okay, consent agenda approval of retirement and benefits for May and June of 2025. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve May and June 2025.
Second.
Thank
The benefits, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, then that passes. Approval of refunds and bills, April and May of 2025. Is there a motion to approve?
They've already heard you.
Motion to approve April and May refunds and bills 2025.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so that passes. Any unfinished business, Sue?
I don't have anything.
Okay, report of chairperson. I'm going to defer my report to Ally, who is our lobbyist, because we have a bill pending that we're waiting on the governor to sign. So Ally can give us all the details about that, and you all keep praying because we just got about 2 weeks left. And so that's the end of my report. Report of the executive director, tab 4. Sue?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of items. I wanted to just call attention in the office update report. We do have started the pension administration project. And so I've got included in there a little update on where we are with that. We're working through, there's going to be 5 deliverables that we'll work through. So we're getting through deliverable 1, which is really just the beginning. But just wanted to let everybody know the project is starting and we've got a regular cadence of meetings. And so probably we'll see back in November is when we'll get a chance to see this first deliverable and do some testing. But we're looking at data conversion, working on that right now as well. So there's a lot of activity going on with this project. So again, thanks to the trustees for getting that approved for us, and we're very excited to get moving on it. I also wanted to mention that we do have 2 trustee elections this year, and those elections are for a retired non-teacher. That term ends at the end of September, so new term would start as of October 1st. So that election process will begin at the end of June with the mailing of the election notice. We have asked Anders, the election, the folks that work on the election, to put something on the outside of the envelope. So to let everybody know that this is an election material. So hopefully that will help people
It will.
understand and know that it's something
Hopefully.
important to open. So that's gonna be throughout the process.
Mhm.
And then there is an active non-teacher election, and that will begin in September, but that term ends at the end of the year, so we have more time with that one. So I just wanted to let everybody know those two elections are gonna be happening this year. And then also just a reminder about the conferences. We do still have MAPERS coming up, if anybody wants to attend MAPERS, that's July 9th through the 11th. We submitted, we have 3 trustees and then 1 staff member attending that conference so far. So if anybody else wants to attend, just let me know. It's a really good conference. And then there's in July, there is the trustee workshop. The NCTR trustee workshop, that'll be in Williamsburg, Virginia, July 13th through the 16th. So you come back from MAPERS, you turn right around and go to Williamsburg, Virginia. So if anybody's interested in either of those, let me know. And then we'll have the annual conference for NCTR. That information will be out later this year. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, and we'll talk more about it here, is we do have an overpayment, and I will talk more with the trustees about that when we get into the attorney's report. We'll get into a little bit more about that. I just wanted to mention that. The one item that needed for us to talk about is our insurance renewals, business insurance renewals. And so we've changed the cycle for our renewals. They used to be some in July and some at the end of the year. But Gallagher, we have two groups from Gallagher that work on one works on the insurance benefits that we offer, and the other works on the business insurance. So everything is pretty much condensed now into the July timeframe, with the exception of cyber, which is still in February. We'll see that renewal in February of 2026. So what we have for right now is we've had some turnover with Gallagher, so we have new folks working on the account. So right now, the only real renewal that we have back is from Hartford, and that's for the property insurance. So that will be increasing about 8%, which Gallagher thought that was pretty good considering the renewals that they've seen, all of the insurance premiums across the country for these types of coverages have gone up quite a bit. So that's the only renewal we have right now. The workers' comp, we were just a little early with our meeting. That renewal will not be released until this Friday. Probably not going to be anything too major. Should retain the coverage. We just don't know what that premium is going to look like. So the prime and the fiduciary, we normally renew that in July, but Gallagher has gotten a 30-day extension, so they can work on that one. Both of those coverages a little bit more. So those coverages will now end until August 20th. So we will look at those prime fiduciary, the excess fiduciary. We'll look at all those at the August meeting, and hopefully we'll have some good numbers there. And then Gallagher does charge, have their fee up there, the $15,000 broker fee that they charge for their service. So that's the other item that's included on this list. So for right now, I would just ask for the trustees, and I can put up a motion when we're done discussing, but really would just ask for the trustees to give approval to the property coverage and the pending renewal on the workers' comp, understanding that if the workers' comp comes back, crazy, something crazy about it, then obviously we can, come back at the August meeting and discuss it, but I wouldn't anticipate that at this point. So any questions or comments on any of that so far?
I have a question. The ones that are pending that'll be ready for the August, you said Gallagher asked for an extension. Is it a reason why they asked for an extension, or that's just normal business?
Yeah, we have 2 new people on the account. We'd had a couple of people that are had been around for a fairly long time, and these folks just came on in April, so they haven't had a whole lot of time to work on it. They're also travelers had asked for some additional information that we just provided, so they didn't have the renewal information ready to go just yet. So that's why they asked for the extension. It's still, knowing that we have our meeting here, so, we want to get that done before the renewal happened, which would be in July. So it's about a month difference. If our meeting was a little later, they might have it, done and together. But since our meeting is a little earlier, then this gives both the broker and the vendor, the insurance vendors, time to get everything together for that renewal.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Sue, I may have missed this. How long have we been in partnership with Gallagher, secured their services?
Oh, Gallagher, a very long time.
Okay,
I don't know offhand, my entire tenure, and I think
Okay.
many years prior to that.
okay. So quite a bit of time. They've served as our broker
They have for this
for
line of
these.
coverage.
Got
And
it. Okay,
the other team in Gallagher, now this Gallagher team is here in St. Louis. The other Gallagher team that serves on the benefit side, they actually are in the Boston area.
I see.
So
Okay.
it's all under the Gallagher umbrella.
Okay. Thank you.
And the actuary is now part of.
Yeah, and
And
now,
the actuary, Dr. Oliver, is also part of Gallagher. They weren't at one time, but then Gallagher purchased them or something.
that's right.
Okay, so
That's
now, so Gallagher's just about doing the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. They're across
We-
there. Yes.
And
Okay.
we still do the RFPs and every 3 years to bid out and everything. And so far, they've always been good to us, and they've also had the better fees than the other companies, so.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Do you know when the next RFP for insurance will go out? I'm sorry, this is Kim. Hi. Sorry.
Kim. What'd you say, Kim?
I said, do you know when the next RFP will go out for looking for a new insurance broker? Or has that already happened the last, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, they are on the schedule. I think that'll be the end of next year is, because we have an RFP schedule. I can send that out again to everybody, but it'll be, I think, end of next year. So we would do RFPs in 2026 for it to start 2027, because we just negotiated a 3-year deal with Gallagher last year.
Thank you.
Okay, so. We put up there. So I'll put up that motion.
Okay, well, Sue, I'll make a motion to accept the renewal from Hartford for the property and workers' compensation policy as recommended by Gallagher, the system's business insurance consultant, and to approve the 2025 broker fee for Gallagher as well.
Richardson second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. We're going to do roll call vote.
No other discussion?
If there's no other discussion, we'll do a roll call vote. Any other discussion? Last time, any other discussion? Okay, we'll do the roll call vote.
Candace Carter Oliver,
Yes.
Louis Cross.
Yes.
Emily Hubbard,
Yes.
Shanice Johnson,
Yes.
and Kimberly Johnson Miller,
Yes.
Yvette Levy,
Yes.
Jennifer Orr,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Albert Sanders,
Yes.
Doris Walker.
Yes.
All right, so we do have 10. The motion carries.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And that is all that I had for my report.
Okay, thank you so much, Sue. And thank you, trustees, for the good attendance tonight. Everything is really looking great. We'll move on to the report of the investment consultants. Do we have a report for them? No, we don't, not at this time. Report of the actuary. We have Mike here tonight. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, I've got Matt Stayback and Blake Wilderman
Okay,
with me
hey,
as well.
Matt. That's right, I did see Matt. Good, welcome you all. Welcome here
You
tonight.
need me to share the my screen, I guess. Okay.
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah.
Can see it good. Well, thanks for having us. We're here to talk about the January 20, sorry, the January 25 evaluation results. Sorry, that we just finished in June. It's basically an update of valuation results that we do annually to update the actuarially determined contributions that should be put into the system to fund during the member's career for the retirement benefits. So we perform an actuarial evaluation. We kind of compare it to the statutory contribution rates. We'll talk about that, and then also talk about what is the funded status of the plan, how's it improved or not, and why the results are different than prior years. So this is our process. We collect data as of the valuation date, January 1st, 2025. So every year we collect assets as of the end of 2024. And then we will talk about asset smoothing and how we recognize gains and losses in assets over 5-year periods. We collect assumptions and methods based on our experience study in 2020 was the last one. We do an experience study every 5 years to kind of review the assumptions and methods with the board and make sure that we're tracking appropriately. And then of course we use the latest plan provisions. So I know there's some House and Senate bill have passed, I think, on some things. We won't get too deep into that, but we haven't reflected any of that in the valuation. It wouldn't be effective anyway for this year until the governor signs it. We really didn't cover it in our report either. Just wanted to mention that up at the top. But all those inputs go into things that we monitor, basically the actuarially determined employer contribution rates that need to be provided to fully fund the system, and then a funded ratio that we'll monitor. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Blake to go through some of the inputs to the valuation, and Matt to talk about some of the results.
All right, thanks, Mike. So data is a key component to the valuation. So on this slide, we'll be going over a summary of the data reconciliation. You can find the full reconciliation in the report, but each year we want to track how participants move and where they are from year to year. So first we'll look at the actives here. This year we had an increase of 121 participants. There was a new charter school that opened last year, which would explain why we had about the same increase between charter schools and the school district. Next is the terminated records, which are members who are no longer working but have not taken their benefit just yet. Here we see an increase of 166, with majority of those coming from members who terminated before meeting the vesting requirements and are only due a refund of their contributions. And lastly, the participants in pay status decreased by 39 participants. So in total, the plan from 2024 to 2025 increased by just about 250 people. On the next slide, we go into more of a breakdown into the data of those groups. We use this data to check for reasonability, and if anything looks outstanding, then we can take a deeper dive into the data. You'll notice that the average service has a notation by it. We did adjust the calculation for it this year, which will reflect the service more accurately. 2024 was also adjusted, so you can see that there wasn't much change and not much to mention about it. The main thing here is the increase in the average covered payroll for the active population. While this does correlate to the increase in the active population, it did increase more than what we expected. And we'll see how that ties into the gain and loss on later slides. Continuing to the next slide here, still a breakdown, but we split it up. So this first slide was actives and terminated members. This one will be for your people in pay status. Everything on this slide was pretty consistent with last year. So this slide is more for informational purposes and showing you the number of participants, average age, and average monthly benefit for each type of pay status. And finally, the last slide here for me, we have a breakdown of the participants enrolled in the plan's insurance coverage. So this would include your medical, dental, and vision. The plan has an expense and contingency reserve where a portion of the reserve is set aside to cover these additional supplements. The table here only breaks down the medical portion, but there is a note at the very bottom which shows a slight change with those having dental or vision premiums. One thing to note with the medical table is the premiums did change from 2024 to 2025. We split out the medical advantage group for those that are also including a spouse or child. This group has a higher premium than those without a spouse or a child included. In 2024, those premiums were the same for those two groups. So you'll see that those are all lumped into the member-only group instead of splitting them out like we did in 2025. But with that's all we had for the data section. So I'll pass to Matt to see how this data was used in the valuation.
All right, thanks, Blake. So as you heard from Mike, there's some key inputs that go into the valuation. One of them is assets, and the other three inputs, you have your data that Blake just went over, your plan provisions and your assumptions all go into the liabilities. And having a key understanding of both those assets and liabilities are important in understanding what the funding status is, how we calculate employer contributions. So as of the January 1st, 2025 valuation, it's a snapshot of the plan as of this date. We collect those assets at the 12/31/2024, and then we calculate the liabilities based on these inputs. And that's how we get to your funding status, which are your assets of your liabilities. And then we calculate the actual determined employer contribution, and as Mike said, compared to the statutory contribution requirements. So going to the next slide, the ultimate goal of the plan is over time making sure your sources of funds, which are your assets, balance out and pay out your liabilities. So you have your annual contributions, you have your investment earnings on your assets. Over time, based on your plan's funding status, you want them to have enough money in there to pay out benefits and expenses. So jumping into assets, as Mike said, we do use actual value of assets where we smooth assets over a 5-year period. So each year we collect market value of assets as of the beginning of the year. We examine the transactions throughout the year. So your benefit payments being paid out, your investment return, your expenses throughout the year. And we calculate what we expect it to be based on the 7% return. in compared to actually what it was. And anytime there's a gain or loss, we smooth that over a 5-year period. And the reason we use the smoothing mechanism over your market value is to really just stabilize the plan's funding status. So it's not jumping up and or dropping significantly and being directly reflected to the market value. And we can see that here shortly in a few slides where we have the returns over the years and market value versus actuarial value. Now, jumping to slide 12, here's a breakdown of the development of the actual value of assets. Over the past year, we expected our return on line K to be 57 million. On line F, we ended up having $73 million on return on assets, which resulted in an 8.89% return on a market value. Now, this resulted on a gain of assets of 15.5 million. Now we smooth that 15.5 million over a 5-year period. So we really only recognized 3 million of it over this past year. Now going slightly below that is the 2022 loss. And that's something we really want to know because we are going to continue to smooth that in over the upcoming years. Mike, if you want to go ahead and jump to the next slide. Of that 169 million, we recognized 33.8 million of that over the past year, and there's still a deferral of 67 million that we'll recognize over the next 2 years. So even though we saw a return that was greater than the 7% over this past year, our actuarial value was actually 3.24%, which resulted in a loss to the plan. And we'll go over gains and losses a little bit later. But since we're still smoothing in that 2022 loss, and deferring some of it, our actuarial value of assets that we're using to determine the actual determined employer contribution, your funding status, is $900 million. So yes, slide 14. So as I mentioned, the purpose of using that smoothing method is really to limit that volatility. The solid blue line here is your market value, and you can really see it jumping up and down above the green line, which is your expected return over the past 9 years. Now, the orange dotted line is your actuarial value, and just see how it hovers a lot closer to our expected return over these years. And it really just helps if the plan would contribute on actual determined employer contributions, or even just looking at funding status, it doesn't fluctuate it as near as much and smooths that period over a 5-year period. Off to the right, looking at the market value, the plan over the last 9 years has been around 6.5% return. And then on a geometric actual value of assets basis, it's been at 5.71%, which is slightly lower than our expected return of 7%. And 2 key drivers of that is the 2019 and 2022 or 2023 returns. So now going ahead and jumping into liabilities. Whenever we go into the valuation, for each and every member, we calculate what is called a present value future benefits. And this is basically every possible benefit and payment option based on the assumptions that we make on what they could be paid out in the future. So what is the probability of them retiring at age 55, 60? What's the probability of them terminating? What's the probability of them surviving? What is their salary going to be in their future, their service? All those assumptions that we make go into calculating the present value future benefits. So now we break down that present value future benefits down even further, and off to the right, we have your actual accrued liability. Of the present value future benefits, that's the amount of liability for each participant for the plan, and that's what we calculate the funding status to. Everything else is future normal cost. Now, the normal cost for the upcoming year, we use in our actual determined employer contribution, which is basically if someone has 20 years of service, what is the cost of the plan of him accruing an additional 1 year of service? And then everything else is your present value future normal cost. Going ahead to slide 17, here's a breakdown of the plan's present value future benefits. A majority of it is actual accrued liability. That's the number of 1.3 billion that goes into calculating that funding ratio, which Mike will go over during the results. And then you have 27.4 for normal costs, which we use in determining the actual determined employer contribution, which Mike will go over as well. On slide 18, here's just a quick summary of just what I went over of what normal cost is and accrued liability. But each year during the valuations, we calculate your assets, we calculate your liabilities, and we have these assumptions. And we look at each year what your gains and losses are based on what we expected. So if we want to go ahead and jump to the gain loss section, Mike, like I said, there's certain assumptions that we know. So as of the valuation date, we know someone's age, we know their salary and their history, how much service they have, what are their contributions, what are the benefits being paid for the people that are in pay status. But we have to come up with assumptions in the future of, like I said, when they might terminate, when they might retire, become disabled, what's going to be the return on assets, what are the expected salary increases based on historical experience. And as Mike mentioned, we did an experience study in 2021 based on a 5-year period from December 31st, 2020 and forward. After the 2026 valuation, we'll be going through a similar experience study, just making sure those assumptions and methods reflect a reasonable long-term expectation of the plan. So first, looking at, I believe it's assets for the gain loss. As you heard earlier, we're still trying to recognize that 2022 loss. As a result of that, even though we've seen gains to the plan for the past 2 years, that large 2022 loss, were to continue to smooth in, resulted in a loss to the plan of $33.7 million, which resulted in the unfunded accrued liability increasing as a result. Now, going to the liabilities, we look at what we expected based on last year's accrued liability, normal cost, the benefit payments, and compared to what actually happened. Blake mentioned this earlier, that we did see an increase in salary. That was the key driver of why we saw a demographic loss on the plan from a liability standpoint. It was mitigated slightly just from higher than expected deaths during 2024, but overall, during 2024, we ended up seeing a $14.5 million in a liability loss, mainly just due to higher salary. And then lastly, a small component of it, but we like to reconcile it still, is we look at employee contributions and also your contingency reserve that we carve out of your assets. That expected and actual contributions with interest, very minimal loss to the plan. A large part of that was even though we did see higher payroll increases overall to the plan, we saw higher payroll, which resulted in more contributions to the plan. So even though our actual determined employer contribution last year was less than the statutory, the higher payroll ended up resulted in the plan contributing very close to what we expected to be contributed based on actual determined employer contributions. The biggest thing to note here is the expense and contingency reserve. With the renegotiated rates, it did increase by over $2 million. So in combination with your assets, your liabilities, and our other gain losses, what we call them, around contributions and the expense and contingency reserve, we saw a loss to the plan of $50.8 million. So I'm going to pass it over to Mike, kind of see how this loss to the plan, how it ties into the funding status and the contributions.
Thanks, Matt. So a couple of things we'll look at the beginning is unfunded liability. That's defined as the liability minus assets. And when we say assets, we're talking about those smooth actuarial value of assets. And then the funded status of the plan. This is the smoothed assets divided by the liability. So what funded percent or funded ratio the plan has. So here we can see from 2024 to 2025, we did have a bump up to the higher premiums in the medical plan of 12.8 to 16.2 expense and contingency reserve. So that that difference of 3.6 million comes out of the market value that we recognize for valuation purposes and ultimately flows into the actuarial value as well. The actuarial value was a little bit lower than last year because we continue again to recognize that 2022 asset loss. So they're getting a little closer together, but we're still have a lower actuarial value. Unfunded liabilities increased from 382 to 415 due to the losses that we've discussed on the asset side, mostly, and a little bit on the liability side as well. So overall, we had an increase in unfunded status that flows down on actuarial value. Our funded status decreased from 70.5 to 68.5. If we just look at market value, it was a slight increase. We had good returns this year, but we haven't recognized all the losses from 2022. So we're still holding up the actuarial value funded ratio a little bit at 68.5. So to the contribution requirements, all that information, we've talked about the inputs and benefits and accrued liabilities, and then present value, future normal costs. So basically, we take the unfunded liability piece that increased, and the increase just due to this year is amortized over 15 years. We have some old pieces of increase that we'll see in a minute. But whatever our unfunded liability payments are, we have to pay for those, and then to pay for kind of our pension debt or what is unfunded, plus 1 year of benefits for your employees of normal cost. This is a more technical formula for your system. We take the normal cost, the 1 year plus your amortization, and we add interest adjustment to get the appropriate timing for contributions. And we call that the ADC, or the actuarially determined contribution. And then we subtract out what the employee's portion of that is to get what the actuarial determined employer contribution is. So that ADEC, the E, is the employer's piece. This is just a demonstration of in 2022, we started with the unfunded liability. We reset to 15-year amortization. And we've been paying $34.5 million a year. That will stay for 15 years. And then when we do a new valuation each year, we look at whether we have gains or losses and establish basically a new pension debt that's over 15 years. The reason they're all losses is because in 2022 we had an asset loss, and then we just continue to bring that in every year. So that's the main reason we keep building on this $34.5 million payment. It's up to $47.4 million. I won't go through all of this. This is just a snippet of our valuation. We talked about the average increase in payroll, and then the count went up as well. So overall, I think we had a 7.3% increase in covered payroll. So when we convert things, it helps. We have more contributions coming into the system. It did increase the liabilities, but we do have more contributions from both the member and employer side to come into the system to pay for contributions. So here you can see the payroll did increase the normal cost to pay for years of benefits from 25.4 to 27.3 million, and with interest here. But as a percent of payroll, we're 8.55 and 8.66%. So really, we did increase the cost of benefits because salaries went up, and so we expect to pay out larger benefits at retirement. But as a percent of those payroll, it remained level. That unfunded piece of liability increased from 42 to 47 million, and then we add interest. So our total, before we look at it, member contributions, our total actuarial determined contributions increased from 70 to 77 after reflecting expected member contributions, which increased due to higher payroll. We take 9% of their pay. Everyone's at 9% now. So when we reduce that, the total employer contributions that on an actuarial basis are 42.9 to 47.6 million, and slightly higher percent of payroll, just below 14% to 14.4% now. This is an allocation of the employer contributions by different employers. So it's the same thing, just split by the employers at 14.4%. But at the bottom, we see what the statutory contributions are. And this year they're at 12.5%. And that currently is decreasing by 0.5% every year. So 12% compared to what all these numbers we've been talking about, the actuary wants to put in 14.4% to get to fully funded, on a path to full funding, I guess, to 100%. And we're only getting 12.5%, which is why the system is seeking legislation I think, to get that to 14%, which is more in line with this. This is just a year by year comparison. Again, it went up. You can see the 13.94 from the actuary compared to 13% that we received for statutory purposes last year was a little bit of a gap. The gaps widened because this went up a little bit to 14.4, and then this went down to 12. The statutory rate went down to 12.5. So year over year, we widened the gap between what the actuary requires to put in to fully fund versus what the statutory rate is. This funded ratio history just shows on a market value basis, it fluctuates a lot more. We're smoothing the actuarial value, but since we got past 2022 and kind of reset things, they're kind of converging again. It was a big drop, but now it's kind of converging again because we're starting to work through that 2022 loss. And to wrap it up, I think the two biggest risks to the plan are the investment risk. I mean, you can see in 2022 we were negative, I think. Some years we've been 10%, and so just getting that 7% return over the long term is a big risk. To the extent we don't meet that, it's gonna you're gonna have volatility, and you're gonna have more pressure on the system to require more contributions to fund. And then contribution risk for this system. I mean, we have a statutory contribution rate right now that's lower than the actuarial required contribution, and that just adds an automatic loss every year, basically, because we're not getting full contributions to pay for the benefits. Okay, we made it through. Talked a lot. Was there any questions?
Hi, this is Kim. I have two questions. My first question was, you talk about the loss that occurred in 2022, and you said it's unfavorable asset return. Can you give that more in layman's terms? What does that mean, and why was the loss?
Sure. I think that I'm gonna get I don't know the asset return. I think we earned, instead of earning our target of 7%, we earned something below 0%. Might have been closer to minus 10%. And so when you expect a return, if you're investing and you're expecting to get 7% return on your assets and you get below 0%, you lose money on your assets. That difference in the dollar amounts that you achieve for the fund becomes a loss to the system. So we have to make up the difference in the return that we expected versus the loss that we had, and we have to make that up. And the way the actuarial policy is to fund that over 15 years, that loss. But it also smooths over 5 years. It takes 20 years. It's a long process to take a hit like that. You hope that you can have a year where we return 15 or 20%, we can make a quick recovery, but that's not likely. So we do have a few good years since then that we've achieved higher than 7% to help kind of offset that. But it does take a long time. I mean, we're in it for the long haul. I mean, the plan is gonna be around. It's open to new members, and so it's a long process. But yeah, it takes 20 years to pay down a loss like that on an actuarial basis.
Do we know why the loss occurred or what was the
I
contributing?
mean, the market was down. I'm not an investment expert, but it was common across all of our clients. And my 401k, probably if you have a 401k, your 401k was down as well. It just, you're invested maybe 60% in the market and 40% bonds, and everything was a bit, all the returns in 2022 were down just due to financial economics across the world. Really, it's not all in the US.
Okay. And one more question. Do the assumptions that you guys use change year over year, or do they stay the same and be reevaluated over like a 3-year term or 4-year term?
It's every 5 years. I mean, if something was out of line in between a 5-year experience study, I think Matt said we did our last experience in 2021, and we're due for an experience study in 2026. So every 5 years we take a step back. So if every year we have little gains and losses on the liability side, maybe a little bit bigger can happen on the asset side, but so we're never going to hit our assumptions, exactly how many people retire or die in a given year. We're never going to hit that exactly, but we're going to take a step back every 5 years and review how the last 5 years went, what future expectations are, and make adjustments. Sometimes it's tweaks, sometimes, and some of it may be up to the board. Like right now, we have a 7% investment return. We've had it for a long time. When it comes to the experience study, is the best time we feel every 5 years to take that step back, and we'll give you information about what we see in the future market returns, and is the 7% appropriate target to hit or not? Should we increase that or lower it? But yeah, to answer your question, every 5 years we do look at it, and it's coming up in 2026.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. I don't know if you need to take a vote on approving it or not, but thank you.
I'll put that motion up.
Evaluation motion.
Yeah, the number 2.
Someone want to read the
I'll make a motion to accept the 2025 actuarial evaluation report as presented by the actuary.
A second.
Richardson, second.
Any questions or concerns? Questions or concerns? Third time. Questions or concerns? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
Candace Carter Oliver,
Yes.
Lewis Cross.
Yes.
Emily Hubbard,
Yes.
Shanice Johnson,
Yes.
Kimberly Johnson Miller,
Yes.
Yvette Levy,
Yes.
Jennifer Orr,
Is she on?
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Albert Sanders,
Yes.
Doris Walker.
Yes.
Okay, and Ms. Orr, are you there? All right. So we do have 9. The motion carries.
Okay.
So thank you, Mike, Matt, and Blake for joining us and for all your help and support throughout the year.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate you all so much.
All right. Take care.
Hey, we're moving on to everything okay, Sue?
Yep.
Okay. Report of committees of the board, tab 3. You start off with benefits. Shanice Johnson and Emily Hubbard, do you have a report?
We do.
All right.
And here we go. The request for proposals for vision and Medicare Advantage coverages was released on June 2nd. The deadline for vendors to submit proposals is June 26th, and Gallagher will deliver a presentation with the RFP results and recommendations at the August 11th board meeting.
Okay. Is there anything else, Emily?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sue.
All right. But we'll move on to trustee business with Jennifer Orr and Kimberly Johnson Miller. You all have a report? Kim and
We do not have a report to report this monthly meeting.
okay, thank you. All right, investments. Christina Bennett and Dr. Sanders, you all have a report?
I don't think we have a report today.
Okay, thank you. Legislative rules and regulations, Yvette Levy and Doris Walker. I think we're going to defer that to Ally, the lawyer for the Maddie, the attorney for the lobbyist attorney is going to cover all of the stuff pertaining to the bill. But is there anything else that you all might want to add?
I just want to ask the question. I was reading over this legislative package, and I just wanted to know, Dr. Levy is the head of this committee, and so is myself, but we are never in these discussions when they have these meetings, and I just wanted to know why.
Okay, well, I'll defer if that's okay. I'll defer all of that, and when Maddie makes her report on the legislative, on the attorney side, legislatively, we can get all those things answered at that time. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Personnel and professional contracts, Bobby Richardson and Dr. Candace Carter Oliver. You all have a report?
No report at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you all so much. New business, Sue? Okay. Report of the attorney. So we're gonna go into a closed session. So if somebody want to read that motion, go into the closed session. Don't everybody go at once.
If you can hear me,
Yes.
to close the meeting and that all records and stand permitted by law pertaining to and or resulting from this closed meeting be closed under revised statute Missouri 610.0211 for the purpose of having a confidential or privileged communication with the legal counsel for the PSRSPL on legal matters.
Richardson second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. We're gonna take a roll call vote to close the meeting.
Candace Carter Oliver,
Yes.
Louis Cross,
Yes.
Emily Hubbard,
Yes.
Shanice Johnson,
Yes.
Kimberly Johnson Miller,
Yes.
Yvette Levy.
Yeah.
Jennifer Orr,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Albert Sanders,
Yes.
and Doris Walker.
Yes.
Okay, so we do have 10 motion. Please stop sharing.
Hello, Maddie.
Give us just a second to get offline here and then. All right, perfect.
I ain't got it.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right, I think we are
Live.
live. Yeah. We are live.
Okay, we're here now. We're back in session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second that emotion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all so much, and we'll make sure that we get that information to you all starting next Friday on any updates with the bill. And thank you all for your attendance tonight, and really appreciate you all so much.
Okay, good
Have a great summer, you all. I'll see some people at the at Mapers.
Makers, I hope we're all coming. It'll be in Margaritaville, in the Ozarks. So we usually have a really nice time.
It's at Tantera.
No, no, they changed it. You know, they upped the ante. Now it's Margaritaville. Yeah. So
All right. See you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Good
See you all.
meeting,
Thank you so
Sue. Thank
much.
you.
Good night.